It being Resurrection Month, the sleep before life, many may deny it, but January is undoubtable bone. It is heavy eyelid time. Let me sleep just an hour. Let me dream of warmer weather. Let me snooze. Let her kiss me one more time. Sleep, by all means. The milkman of the year will not have harnessed up his horse. The world around you dozes under snow. The men will not be fishing yet, but under ice the river rolls. Strange how January so often feels like the unnoticed month. It's the one that comes to an end and you suddenly realise, is it February already? But not this January. This January is very different. So that poem called January might hark back to beginnings of other years that you don't remember quite so clearly. I jumped into that one right at the start, and you would have missed it, most of it, if you'd come in later on, but I'll read it again at the end. Hello, it's Monday, 4 o'clock, and I'm doing a poetry show. I don't know who's watching, how many of you are watching. I don't really see the notifications here, and I've no idea who you are unless you write to me and say hello. But I've been reading this week and last, I think, little poetry show every other day. And I've been reading for this bunch from this book, my book, Sabrina Bridge. Just making our way poem by poem through the book from beginning to end. And then we won't finish it today. We might do next time, or perhaps the time after that. And so I'll read a few more of those for you today. And also I want to include a couple of poems from a friend of mine. I can't invite guests to come and read for you, frustratingly, but I can pick up their books and read a couple of poems for you and hope they don't mind. So, to carry on with Sabrina Bridge. Carlos, hello sir, thank you. Good to see you. I hope you're well. Yes, so please feel free to send me a hello, let me know you're there. So many of these poems in the today's come from a time in Worcester, and some of them speak of Worcester specifically. Many of them are a little bit more rooted in reality than the ones I've written earlier, including this one, heavily steeped in mortality. Inspired by an incident whilst driving. Quite perturbing, quite, that doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? But it happened, so I wrote this for it. A Black Pheasant Hen. I felt the thud, which maybe only the living feel, and thought, not that I'm about to die, but that I'm about to kill. And though I slowed for the bird, and she would have made it past, she stopped and looked at me, still too fast to stop myself, and it became braking so as to kill her safely, in control of my vehicle. And she had given herself up to be killed for the earth, my lover, as I'd given up myself in the field. and then the rain covered us both. But I felt the bump as I hit a black split into the road and continued on my way. Hey, Kathy. Oh, good to see you. Thank you. Yes, as long as you need, as long as you want. Absolutely fine, of course. Another bird. This one speaks of, a relationship, a heartbreaking relationship that ended, and this prospect of seeing them again at a mutual friends event. And a sense of, I so want to speak to them. They might not want to speak to me. They will want to speak to me. All I'll do, I'll make sure they know where I am, so they can call me if they want. This one is called Hawk. I wanted you to see me, watched you from a distance and stood in plain sight. An attempt at reassurance. But to you perhaps, dear rabbit, as welcome as the kestrel's hovering flight. I wanted you to see me, an invitation, allowing you the means to approach when you chose, knowing our meeting was inevitable. But perhaps for you, it was simply a glare of headlights in which you froze. So I took a moment to near you, swooping into contact, focused hawk-like upon your shoulder, turning slowly away from me, slamming me flat into the hood of the oncoming truck. I cannot let you see me now, thrown bloody on the roadside, feathers bent and broken, one wing torn from me. The moment was mischosen. And speaking further to the end of relationships, this one is an attempt to reconcile that sense of all the time, the years, the efforts spent and invested in someone, and then it ends, and you're left thinking, did it even exist? That time you were together, that years. Now that present world is so devoid of everything that was. And it's born out of my interest in palmistry, and it's called Love Lines. Love lines, incised in the side of my hand. The palm reader's art reveals one to be you. If it be so, then you have been here, a crease in my skin, since first it clothed me. If it be so, and you were foretold by a fold layers deep, then still you remain, more real than time, as I grow around you, carved in my grip since before I knew when. Since before my heart first learned how to love, and then forget. Though I could not grasp you, walking together, my line in your hand held your line in mine, and no scratch or tear for I can't dig you out, will ever be so fixed as that line in my palm, the deepest, longest. I want to turn now to my special guest. She doesn't know I'm reading this, and I hope she doesn't mind. A friend of mine named Regina Toon, who I met very briefly when she came to visit London from Singapore, and she gave me a copy of her poems. And I remember a memorable day when she launched the book. She invited dancers to improvise dance in front of us, and she asked poets to improvise poetry to the dance and amongst the dance, and it was quite a wonderful flowing time. The words are all gone on the air, of course, but it was a lovely day. And so I'd like to read two of hers. The book is called Coordinates because the titles of the poems are all the coordinates which they were written. And this is from the section The Calling of the Forest by Regina Toon. I am running down this path to the forest. Here there is a path no more. I leave my shoes behind and swim across the river. I am running barefoot in the forest. I peel off my wet clothes as they hook onto branches and tear. I am running naked in the forest. I forget who I am, what I am. The rustling of the leaves chases me, but I am not tired. I am not afraid. I am running and running. The forest is calling me. It whistles at me. It roars at me. I have no fear, no fatigue, for it is passionate. It is excited. It mirrors me. It mirrors the eternal beating of my heart as I run barefoot, naked, completely naked. Nothing before my eyes but this forest as I run deeper into it. In your presence, I feel the calling of the forest, rushing into me like the wind knocking on my skin. All my untruths spill like the flooding river, washing across the wild fire. The animals howl, and I am left alone in the cold waters of grey. There is a solo melody playing through the bubbles of my breath, and I am sinking deeper and deeper into this illusory world, where the birds have no place, no need to land, where the gentle sun walks on water. I have no more hope, not any more dread, no love nor fret. There is nothing but a tear in the veer of my mind, a strain in the drum of my life. In this serenity, in this depth of dark blue, all control is eased from one cell to a molecule. The land will slowly dry, the trees will stand upright again, their faces open to the moon of the night sky. The animals will return, and there will be fire again. Lovers will circle around in the milky river, and the earth will come back round again. Those two by Regina Toon in her book Coordinates. A lovely book and a lovely poet. To return to this one, Sabrina Bridge. A slew of poems very much tied to my time in Worcester, to Worcester locations and Worcester places, including this one. There's an old pub, sits on the side of the river, called the Old Rectifying House. And it sounds like, rectifying, that means fixing things, doesn't it? That means readdressing things. It actually means, in the context, a distillery, a distillation process for breeding, for brewing very fine spirits. And it's a place where we held any number of poetry gatherings, open mic nights, poetry nights, all sorts. And so this was written in tribute to that, called A Gathering of Poets at the Old Rectifying House. You would think it a place where things are put right, where mistakes are addressed and looseness made tight, where ancient misdoings were brought to the light. Crouched by the river on the shoulder of the bridge, this brick and timber palace of the Old Rectifying House sits like a scolder. But here, the judgments made put no one in a pillory, were on refinement, grades of alcoholic purity, the wash of fermentation for the Williams distillery. Spirits of over 90% proof, stilled and redistilled, might have took the roof of any fool willed enough to drink it, struth. How many coffins filled? Still. The spirits here were recondensed 90% pure. Might not those other spirits, the quiet ones, hid behind the door or in the beams, give us writers welcome, our writings to endure? And I think that one also appeared in an anthology, Poems of Worcestershire. There's a street in Worcester called the Butts. It's actually quite a common name and derives from the old feudal duty of practicing your archery. It was necessary to go to the butts, sometimes daily, and practice shooting arrows at it. It exists elsewhere. There's Newington Butts in South London, plenty of others I'm sure around the place, and that's the title I've given this one, The Butts. What an archer she was. Smack. She hit, and the tip was hot. Smack. She hit again in the exact same spot. Smack. With a third, she split the shaft. Smack. Again, and this time laughed. Smack. This arrow trick's getting old. Smack, smack, smack. Feet are getting cold. Smack. Festooned like a hedgehog at a wedding feast. Smack, snack, smack. A porcupine on honeymoon. Smack. The last dart surely falling from above. Smack. The last of a million ways she had me fall in love. Butt of the joke, of course. Worcester is known as the Faithful City, a name it got during the civil wars for, on the face of it, staying loyal to the king. He gave it the name the Faithful City. And I've taken that title for this poem of loyalty in spite of love. Faithful. in a little powick cottage on the road to Upton town. My love beside her bonny boy must lay her body down, while I above old Bedwardine do slumber with my own. Upon a morning, 1st of May, her road did cross with mine, across the ancient battlefield, the meeting of our eyne. Her bonny lad high on the cart, and she did walk behind. And at the bridge we passed, I standing back to clear her way, a simple smile on her cheek that newly broke the day. Her breath did catch, and mine was caught upon that morn in May. And each did gaze behind across the winding river Team, and walked with backward step, the day adrift upon the stream, a thread to hold our fingers well as any glover's seam. That time and on her secret's kept, and mine is kept as well. Though loud my heart within my breast as this cathedral bell, and none shall know the wishes I must to the river tell. My hand within the water leaves no writing to be read, my voice upon the beacon none to witness what I've said. The vows of nunnery reveal no trace of where I tread, while in a powick cottage on the road to Upton town, my love beside her bonny boy must lay her body down, while I above old Bedwardine do slumber with my own. Faithful. David, hello mate, hope you're good. Thank you for joining us. That one there mentions a battlefield, and there is a battlefield just outside of Worcester City, where the siege of Worcester took place during the English Civil War. It's a field and it's a floodplain now. The bypass high above it. And it was thinking of that place and the farmers upon it. Made me think of this poem, The Battlefield. Do you not fear, Father, that the soldiers will rise again from the field in anger? When flood has come and gone its way, I sometimes see the whites of their remains digging through the clay. And when the wind assails the trees or running under storm, I often hear their yells or cannonade across the vale. I fear their harm. Hush, girl. Tomorrow morn you'll follow me behind the horse, and as the harrow breaks the dirt, it crumbles to the bones by each furrow thrown, ploughs them back into the earth. Who would want but to go back into the ground he died upon, with comrades all around and foemen too, a commonwealth amongst the tilth. Leave the clutching of your gown, your mother's close, sleep a child's dream. I've heard them, Father, buffet at the doors and at the gentle window pane, dance the smoke back down the chimney, wanting in, wanting out again. Felt it in my frock, clamped across my thigh, and in the blood I shed, felt against my chest. My mother lies amongst them. I see the earth disturbed around her grave, and there is marching in my ear as I lay myself to rest. Father, I fear. You've never strode, miss, upon a battle's scarred and sorry earth. Seen the soldiers knotted on the ground, arm in bloody grip, with innards ripped and lying in a tangle all around. The captain trapped beneath his horse and by his own command garrotted. None is so binded, one to other, as soldiers in the fray, in slaughter as in laughter, to rise against those who know it not is not the soldier's way. The battlefield. High over Worcester and down the road, the town of Great Malvern, there are the magnificent Malvern Hills with their distinctive skyline just suddenly erupting out of the floodplain. And in my time in Worcester, I was there often walking around British camp or across the Beacon. And this is a poem of a day in which the world was so bound with fog and mist. It seemed so otherworldly. And I wrote this one for my friend Polly Stratton, and it's called Misting the Malverns. This mist is a visible silence, swallowing dogs and letting voices run a mile, while steep is just as steep and breath as short as sight. The views have been rubbed out. What an eraser. Everywhere is an edge of the world. Single trees lurk like Orsinian spies beneath grey gabardines, smoking nicotine-free. The rocks and outcrops comb over their woven rugs, and the peaks, in brilliant green, glad to be the only thing to be seen, are preening. The sculptor in bronze has been free with the bracken. They keel over and sing, "Look at us, we're dying, isn't it exciting?" The tuffets are having a party, or forming a party, militant molehills draped in silver. Why must we stay here all year while shrubbery takes a holiday? Across the dyke, splitting the difference, to one side, Unstershire, to the other, Unfordshire. If you walked down one slope, you would only walk under and come up the other. Immense and round, brighter than white, the sun has crept close, a virginal girl gazing through muslin, or else nosy neighbour twitching the curtain. She thinks she's unseen, self-conscious of her size. Paths criss-cross, ropes made in Lilliput, walked by a laureate, weighted by benches. Unanchored, the hills would float free. It was quite a remarkable day, this island of green, just in a sea of cloud. And on that same spot, the Worcestershire Beacon, this short sonnet. In search of New Year, we stumbled upon Beacon Lane in the dark. A stream of people, wrapped and booted, led the way. Butterfly lamps and fairy lights in a cavernous sky. Rising over a flattened earth, every hill in the world was here. Climbing blacker ground, steeped in shadow, a clipped penny half moon, and stars were all outstared by city glare. We sat upon an unseen bank, the wind above and unseen people all about, counting down the time and pressing drinks into my hand, watched fireworks like raindrops. We missed the path descending, saw the streams to right and left, took baby steps arm in arm. Can she feel this fierce dragon of earth roaring up from a river plain, making a skyline, throwing our shadows over the valley floor, the tread of our footsteps? I think mine travel too lightly, holding your hand. Does she notice the weight of my clinging upon her back, stroking the down of her ear, whiles you, laying on mine, rest like sunlight, a weight of warmth only, and share your breath? As the wind whips your hair into thorns and willows rootless here, does she feel this one outlasting so many? The screaming desire for you to stay. To stay. The beacon is burning. That short one was called Malvern Hills. So I have one other to read and then to repeat the one I read at the very beginning, which nobody would have had time to hear. We've had a fair bit of flooding this year in Oxford, and I know they would have had in Worcester. But this particular year, the 7 Worcester banks rose so high, quite astonishing. And so this is a little portrait of the city in such a place, which mentions, amongst other things, the quay, the old port, and how that was covered in water. It mentions the cattle market, now a car park. It mentions the Pitchcroft, Worcester racetrack. And it brings us back to the beacon of the Malvern Hills. Worcester in flood. The bridge is in the water thigh deep. Couldn't roll his trouser high enough to keep him dry. A wading fisherman, trawling up a timber aisle for ducks to sleep. The swans have become royalty. The queens and kings and princelings bossy on the quay, visiting the homes of more humble birds amongst the sunken branches of floodplain trees. It might be old-time market day. Just so many brown backs pushing down the cattle track, a canal of cows, a herd of water, past the cattle market and on their way. Roads have been erased. Venice-like, everything has dropped beneath her smooth face. The Welsh water, coached in from the mountains for a Christmas fair, she has spread herself wide. Fish invade the Pitchcroft, racing now with soft going round the parked and sunken cars, and the fence juts white like a dragon's ribs, waterworm's skeleton in soggy ground. The river eyes the beacon, dreams of Glastonbury tour, not so far, not so high. Could she gather for the future, bring her boar and her cattle, all her swans and her salmon, make those hills no more but an island? The next poem in the book is about the River Severn. Or at least how it got her name, the legend of Sabrina. But I'm not going to read that one today. That's for the next one. So there's just one more to reprise of January to finish this off. In the meantime, I'll thank you for joining. The video for this will be on the timeline afterwards. And I will be back, all being well, the day after tomorrow, whenever that is. So this may not be like the January we're currently having. It may recall Januaries that we were used to. But then January is such a month that often we don't notice it's here, unless perhaps you're a Capricorn. And then it's gone and you're thinking, how did we get to February already? So thank you so much for joining and for being here for as long as you have been. I hope you've enjoyed. This is January. It being Resurrection Month, the sleep before life. Many may deny it, but January is undoubtable bone. It is a heavy eyelid time. Let me sleep just an hour. Let me dream of warmer weather. Let me snooze. Let them kiss me just once more. Sleep, by all means. The milkman of the year will not have harnessed up his horse. The world around you dozes under snow. The men will not be fishing yet, but under ice the river rolls.